Hello, and welcome to episode 37 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner and myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how you doing today?
Oh, Baruch Hashem. Very good. Um, the first thing I want to say before anything else is to apologize for last week's recording, which there was some problem with the audio. Now, so I wanted to let our devoted listeners know that some of them asked me, I told you that they had been reposted and fixed up. Those that didn't get the upgraded version. So when I heard and saw that the recording hadn't come out well because whatever the equipment wasn't proper, so I immediately contacted Seth and said, take it down because no production is better than a bad production. And he said, no, I'll fix it and let it on. So bottom line is some people still complain afterwards. I don't know exactly what happened, but I'll tell you this much, that we got one message from somebody here in Boston who's like, wow, thank you so much. A Pos-cast is so fantastic. So sometimes you put something out, it's not so great, and we try our best, but somehow the message got through. At least one person, probably others as well. So, but nonetheless, the apology. What happened last week? We had a guest on. Oh, we had a guest on who hadn't checked his equipment. All right, look, we'll
Yeah,
try.
I mean, there's only so much we can do when it's not one of us that's having the audio issue, and it's I think the first one the problem was is that I usually click the setting to remove background noise, and so that works just fine with our microphones and doesn't work just fine when the connection isn't as great. So just kind of happens. I tried throwing on the subtitles. I didn't have time before work to really go through them, so I'm sure that some of the words and stuff were a little bit messed up, but hopefully the subtitles helped a little bit in that sense. But
Okay.
I mean, I figure it's better to have something where people are only able to understand some of it than nothing at all. And I mean, especially in the beginning, you talked more anyway, right? Because you talked about
Right.
the
They
parsha, and
got
so
something.
at a
So,
minimum, they've
so
got that.
we got to perfect our brand. And what somebody suggested doing a sound check before when we have a guest. So I think that's what we're going to do in the
Well,
future.
but the thing was, is that for us, like in my headphones, it sounded like I understood every word that he said until the internet issues, and when we brought him back, it sounded
Uh-huh.
fine in my ears. So there's not
Okay.
much I can do other than be listening to it while we're actually
Right.
recording, and
Okay. I mean,
then
that's good for people to understand that it wasn't like we were just blatantly just throwing it out there. All right. We got that done. So in Boston, it's very quiet in our area because students are away. I think they're going to start dribbling in probably after Shabbos. But for those of you out there who care, Yonah Baruch is flying out of Logan on Sunday to Texas. So he's going to spend Shabbos with us. So we just need 8 more people for a minion. Anyway,
why,
listen,
why is he in? Why is he flying out of Logan?
because he lives in Connecticut.
Oh, I guess.
I didn't ask him that question. All right, for those of you that don't know, Yonah Baruch is a dear friend. And if you know him, you'll understand. If you don't know him, you take our word for it. So last week, Connie and I went to Crown Heights. We left on Tuesday and came back on Sunday. And it was quite, people, when people saw me in Crown Heights, especially on Shabbos, he said, are you here for a simcha? Like somebody getting married or something like this. I said, no, I'm here because my wife has off from school and the colleges are out. So she wanted to go. So we went and obviously accomplished a bunch of things that she wanted to take care of. So in that way, it's a good thing. But like just the initial thing of like, you don't belong. It's almost like you don't belong here. Not in a bad way. Just like if you're on shlichus somewhere, that's where you should be. And why are you just hanging out here? But it was very interesting. It was a very interesting week to be. You go to Crown Heights and you start meeting people, and people say things to you, and this and that. Like a lot of little interactions. The thing that was most bothersome to me in a way were the people that came over and said hello to me, and I'm like, I don't know who you are.
Okay, but that's not bothersome. That's just you not knowing who people are. Do I need to remind you of when you went to what it was like your nephew or something, his
Gosh,
bar mitzvah.
don't bring that up. That was a month after our mitzvah. I forgot him. But listen, it was my great nephew.
It was
But
only a
anyway,
month after.
right, but he wasn't wearing his hat and jacket. I couldn't remember him.
Don't
But this one guy came over to me. So some people would say, "Oh, Shalom Aleichem, good Shabbos, good to see you." And if I didn't know who they were, I'd just like move on. But this one guy came over and like, "Oh, how you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm fine." And it was like this big, almost like the bear hug was about to happen. And I don't know who you are. So he told me who he was. And I said to him, I haven't seen you. I don't think I've seen you since our days in yeshiva. And you're twice as wide as you were before. So I was thinking that in my mind. I remember this guy from yeshiva. He was very thin face, obviously a black beard. Okay, that I can forgive him for the black beard, not being black anymore. I'm looking at him like, oh my goodness. And so, you know how we name drop? We will not be name dropping on this one. But I looked at him and I can't even imagine. I don't, I just don't get it. You don't look like, you don't look anything like it. I was like, are you sure you are who you're saying you are? But I guess he was. So that was, that's a little bit of and one guy came over to me, and I see this guy in 770 always, and I don't think I ever spoke. I don't think I had anything to do with him really. Can't remember. I don't think so. And he tells me, "Oh, my son on Shlichus, I don't know, he likes you, or he talks high, something he said about me and his son." I'm like, "Oh yeah, thank you very much." After he left, I turned to the guy next to me and said, "What's this guy's name?" He thought I knew who he was. He tells me his son. "Oh yeah, of course, your son. I know who he is." And so the guy told me who he was. And he said, "Oh, his name is so and so. He's the brother of so and so." I'm like, "I don't care who his brother is. Now I know he's the father of this guy." And that's the shliach in I think Minnesota. It's at Miami University in Minnesota.
Miami University of Ohio.
Ohio? Okay, it could be Ohio.
There's Miami University in Ohio and University of Miami in Florida.
No. It wasn't in Florida. Ohio is probably where it was.
Miami University of Ohio is more of a hockey school, whereas University of Miami is more of a football school.
Right, yeah, thank you. So, and I went to visit my good friend Daniel Greenstein, who used to live in 497 Commonwealth Avenue, which is in the corner of the Chabad house. That was when the wild frat boys were there. We had it was like he actually lived upstairs with another guy. I remember who it was, yeah. And downstairs were like 5 guys living in one apartment. And I would go there, put on film with them. It was a lively situation there. So I met him, went to put on film with him. Everyone wants to know what's going on campus, anti-Semitism, the whole shtick. Chani sent me something. I don't know where she got it from, but like listings of which universities have what degree of anti-Semitism. And on top of the list was a group of like 10 or 15 universities, and Boston University was listed there. I said, if we have we're on the high level of anti-Semitism on Boston University, then there's not much anti-Semitism on campuses at all, because it's not a huge issue. There are incidents, things happen, but it's like people are walking around worrying about it, or students are worrying about it. Anyway, we talked about this. This is too overblown. Anyway, that's that. So, put up those pictures I sent you. I want to. This was an.
Do you want both of them or just one of them?
Yeah, both of them.
Okay.
I didn't think that people see it, but I didn't think the guy in the picture was the same one in both pictures. But I guess he is. So this is. I went to visit my father and to help him putting on tefillin in the morning. And downstairs from his apartment, there's a shul that has a minyan. So this picture I got a couple of weeks ago. The guy on the left is Eric Mijakovsky, a BU grad, probably 20 years ago, give or take. And this is in Paris, right? And he says, "Oh, do you know this guy?" I'm like, "I don't know the guy." That's what he told me. I have no idea who this chassid is. Now let's go to the next picture. All of a sudden I meet him in shul, and he comes over to me and says, "Hey, did you get the picture I sent?" There you are. He said, "I'm wearing my talis." And he said, "Yep, I got it." Anyway, his name is Pekarsky, and he's a shliach in Paris. And I heard his modus operandi is to stand outside the pizza shop and get people to put on tefillin.
Ah.
Pretty lively. He's a hot wire. He's a hot wire, this guy. Oh, and while I was in shul then, I see this guy, and I'm looking at him. I don't really know who he is. Then I heard his voice, and I said, "Oh, I know exactly who this guy is." Why? Because he does a podcast. So I heard his voice. I went over to him and said, I went over to him. This is one of the things that you do when you know somebody's name in shul. You walk over and nonchalantly, you look at his talis bag, and he has his name on the talis bag. Now, the thing is, if you know that trick and you see somebody else looking at your talis bag, you say, "Okay, dude, you don't know who I am. You're trying to figure it out. Fine." But most of the times, I think on my tefillin, I put my tefillin bag on top of the talis bag, so it generally covers my name. Because this happened maybe it was in New York or somewhere. Yeah, it was in New York. And my talis, my tefillin bag, and I see some guy looking at my talis bag, and I think he wants to know who I am. And I'm like, I don't want to know. I don't know you. I'm not going to move it. I will move it out of the way. See, this is my name. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't embarrass somebody, God forbid. But anyway, so I walked over and I saw his name is Yeshua Wordy. I said, "Oh, I know you. And how come you stop doing your podcast?" So what he does is he organizes, I think it's called, CHYE, Crown Heights Young Entrepreneurs. And he does like conferences. I don't know his full thing, but it looks like he was busy. He finished davening, he ran out of shul. But he does conferences and things, for entrepreneurs and each other. And so he's doing this podcast, which was very good, which he would find Lubavitcher entrepreneurs. Now, some of them, like Benzi's Fish, that was a free advertisement from Benzi's Fish. Ben-Zion Raskin started this, has his fish store called Benzi's Fish. By the way, in the Chabad house, we use Benzi's gefilte fish. And I'll tell you about the other fish store in a second. But first, I'll finish with this Benzi story. And he did an interview, and Benzi is probably, how old is he now? He's probably in his 70s maybe. And now his son's working it. So it was very interesting to hear as a Lubavitcher started a business. And there's another guy, I just remember these two. This other guy who started this pasta, like frozen pasta or something. I don't know. I remember. This was just very interesting to hear how some regular Lubavitch guy who went to yeshiva starts a whole business. So he said, "Oh yeah, I ran out of good options who to interview, and it takes a lot of time. Whatever. I encourage him to continue doing it." And then he says to me, "Do you remember? I came to your Chabad house." I'm like, I hate when people do that. Like, no. In fact, I met a bacher in 770. He came over Shalom Aleichem. I looked at him and I was like, he's vaguely familiar. He says, I said, "Who are you?" Bacher, I can say, "Who are you?" I don't care. He said, "I stayed in your Chabad house before Rosh Hashanah for a couple of days." I'm like, I couldn't pull it up. I felt bad for the
Oh, man.
I really felt bad. We had some Bachrim here for Hanukkah, and before they left, I tried to study their face and try to get it in my head because I'm afraid, like within the next 6 months, I'm going to meet them and they'll say hi, and I'm like, I don't remember you. Anyway, so that was Wordy. I met Wordy there. And the other fish store is Raskin's Fish on Kingston Avenue. Raskin's is on Albany, and Raskin's Fish store is on Kingston Avenue. Now, interesting thing what happened there, the two guys the father passed away, who started this shop like, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago. And the two sons now run it. They have a couple of workers there as well. If you've been to Crown Heights, you've definitely seen it. It's right on Kingston Avenue, around the corner from 770, one block up. Anyway, so these two brothers came. There's a fish conference, not a conference. What do you call it? Bigger than a conference, a trade show. There you go. Why don't you help me? There's a trade show And so, all kind. So they came, and then they called me up. I think they came. They didn't come for Shabbos. It was probably Sunday, Monday. They said, where can we get some breakfast? I said, oh, come to the Chabad house. And they, we don't come. So they came, and I make breakfast for them. And they were very appreciative of it. So now these two guys, who I know who they are because I've been to the fish store and I just know them by sight. But now every time I meet them, it's Shalom Aleichem, how you doing? We don't have much to talk about because I'm not friends with them per se, but now we're acquaintances from one breakfast. By the way, I shouldn't say this, but they also said, oh, next time you're Crown Heights, stop in the store. So I had to get a case of fish. I went in and they gave it, pro bono. They gave me whatever. But I gave them the breakfast. I really, I felt bad for I didn't feel bad. I said, here, there's two Lubavitch guys in the house. Come on over. I'll make breakfast for you. I don't know, it was off season or something. I don't remember when it was. Anyway, so that's as far as the fish stores go. And what else do we have here? Oh, on Sunday, Chani and I went to Great Neck. And they have a gorgeous Chabad house there. It's a Chabad house that there's a lake there. And so when you're in the shul, there's the windows, and the windows overlook the water. It's not very close, but it's higher up, so it oversees the water. Very nice. It's a very nice place. Baruch Hashem, really beautiful. And that's the second property, further away from the water. I'm not saying this is near the water. It's like probably 100 yards from the water. But then beyond, and then further on, also a little bit higher up, is like an older building. It's just very unique. That must have been their old Chabad house. This is the new Chabad house. The new Chabad house is like a humongous, beautiful, gorgeous brick building. Really nice, and great night. So, a BU alum, Kimberly Zar, now her name is Blurian. They're Persian. So it was the...
that wasn't the Persian BU alum I was hoping you were going to mention.
You what?
Said that wasn't the Persian BU alum I was hoping you were going to mention.
Oh. So she went there for the bris. Very nice. It's a big place. So it was very nice. It was a very nice, pleasant thing. Oh. So this woman comes over and says, hi. Da-da-da. Now remember that I was at her wedding and her older brother, Yaakov Zar, I was at his wedding too. So this woman comes over and she introduces like, oh, I'm her mother's sister. And I'm like, okay, did I ever? And she's like, oh, bubbly. And she says to me these words. She says, I follow you. Now, I don't think she's on the Pos-cast, but I think probably it is. We definitely have to put the Pos-cast on Instagram because that's probably what she follows. But after the bris, there was a nice sit-down breakfast, right? Like every bris, you have food afterwards. And so I'm sitting at this round table. We don't really know any other people there. I'm sitting with Chani, and there's flowers in the middle of the table, right? And the people across the table, it's like, one of these like big round tables or like a small one. It could fit like 12 people, probably like, what do they call it, 8 foot, 10 foot, whatever it is. Anyway, so he starts talking to somebody next to him. I'll tell you why I mentioned the flowers in the middle. And he starts saying he's going to be going to 770 for a wedding that night. So I hear 770, my ears perk up, and he didn't see me because the flowers were there. So I sort of like moved to the side, and I said, "Oh, you're going to 770?" And like boom, we hit it off. So who was the wedding? The wedding was, I think the groom was from Italy, and he says my mother grew up in Italy. I think maybe he was born there too. And immediately, and she's very close to Chabad and da-da-da. I said,
so it has to be related to you.
There you go. So my uncle is there. So I was like, we had a whole schmooze about it. And like, he was first time going to 770. So that was, so my point over here, and then we weren't sure if we should go to the bris, and I go to the bris. If we were in Boston, like people said, oh, you came all the way from Boston. And here's the thing about telling the truth. We could have said, yeah, we came. You could make like, yeah, whatever. She's important. She was a regular at the Chabad house. We liked her, and she's part of our extended family. So we came for the bris. That would have been a complete untruth. The only reason we went to the bris was because we were in New York already, and we were going to go back. So the question was, do we go back Sunday midday afternoon, or should we go back in the morning? And we didn't want to deal with traffic and all that. Erev New Year's. So we decided we'll go back in the morning. So I said to Chani, if we go back in the morning, let's stop off by the bris. And she was like, I don't know, it's going to make a big... Anyway, but obviously she said, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, it'll be a little bit out of our way. We'll, have to leave it early, but we're going to go to the bris. Anyway, so we go to and when she's there, she met a girl that had grown up in Great Neck, but had gone to Beis Rivka. At the end of it, she said, it was really good that we came early because we met a whole bunch of, different people. So the point over here is this. The summation of all of these and others. Oh, one thing I must mention, one of the most enjoyable things that I do when I'm in Crown Heights is Friday night, if you go upstairs, like where the Rebbe's room is, that's where I daven outside the Rebbe's room, then in the hallway, usually afterwards, Simon Jacobson is hanging out. So all I got to do is go over to him and say, Shalom Aleichem, how you doing? And immediately there's some discussion about what the Rebbe says about this, Rebbe says about that. And it was, and he didn't disappoint. And it's not like a put on, it's like it comes naturally. And that's the only thing I want to talk to him about. And so we talked a little bit about Eretz Yisrael and about how the Rebbe in 1967 said it's such a great time for people to get inspired and like we can bring Mashiach. And then like half a year later, the Rebbe said like, we blew it. He says now also it's such a great time of inspiration. We got to get a message out there to the Jews about, look, we're all feeling connected to our Judaism. Let's take it to the next level and actually bring Mashiach. I was actually listening to Manis Friedman today, and he was talking exactly what the Rebbe always said, obviously in his way of speaking, but basically the point is, what he was talking about was about the reason why the Jews have Eretz Yisrael is because God gave it to us. It's our inheritance. It's not like we'll give you, it's not we have a right to defend ourselves. No, this is our inheritance. It's our land. That's number one. Number two is we can't give it to you. It's given to us. It's not ours to give it. It's ours. It was our parents. It's our children's, our grandchildren's. You can't give away an inheritance like that. So he's saying, where does it say? It says in the Torah. Now everybody believes in the Torah. Who doesn't believe in the Bible? Everybody believes in the Torah. So you just say it says in the Torah. This is what it says in the Torah. And he was saying he once met a guy in the airport or something, and he was trying to convert him to Christianity or something, and he says, and the guy said something about the Bible, and he said to him, "Do you think the Bible is literal?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "I'm a Kohen. My great grandfather was Aaron a Kohen. My great uncle is Moses. It's not like a theory. I am literally a descendant of Aaron a Kohen, who's the brother of Moshe, who brought the Torah down." Basically saying that by us, it's not like we don't believe that the Torah is ours or believe Hashem gave it to us. This is a fact of who we are. And the same with land of Eretz Yisrael. The fact is Hashem gave it to us. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't leave. There's no place to go. Anyway, so that message and that understanding of how we have to get that across to Jews in general. Anyway, it was interesting bumping into him, and that was a valuable thing. And I always say this, anytime you get out, I know people are bored of hearing this, but I went to that same supermarket I always go to. I haven't been there for a couple of weeks. And I see a woman, and she's like, from a slight distance, like 10, 15 feet, she's smiling at me, giving me like a little smile. I'm like, okay, I realize when I walk into this place, they don't see a Jew, they don't see a Jew with a beard. And if I keep my mouth shut, they probably think I'm some holy person. So I don't talk too much. I just walk around doing my shopping. Anyway, and then she said something to me as she got a little closer. I said, "What?" And she said, "God bless you." I said, "Thank you very much." But it blows my mind that people do that because these are religious people. What does that mean? That means in their religion, they're not Jewish, but they're religious. And therefore they accept the Torah, whatever they call it, the Bible. And so if you say to them, the land of Israel belongs to the Jews, they say, yeah, of course. And that's what the Rebbe was saying. Go into the UN and say, all of you who are religious here and believe in God and whatever religion it is, whether it's Muslim, Christian, or Havdil Jewish, raise your hands. Okay, now what's the whole debate about Israel all about? Now, talking about Israel, bringing this back to the Pos-cast, so I got a message from Ron Storch. Ron Storch lives in Israel. He spent a year at Boston University LLM, the advanced law degree. And he came to the Chabad house and he joined the Chabad, I hate saying this, movement. He became a Lubavitcher. And he's a great guy, wonderful guy, lives in Tzfat. He was the one that was verbrenning in Tzfat. And I got a message from my daughter saying, do you know this guy, Ron Storch? He's talking about our family in Tzfat, because my daughter, who's in Yerushalayim, has a friend in Tzfat. So I immediately send a message to Ron and say, oh, you're talking about me. Now, that was the whole message. I had asked him to come on to the Pos-cast. And he said he's too busy. So I messaged him this about a month ago. I said, oh, you're too busy to come on the Pos-cast for half an hour, but you have time to bring for the seminary. So what does he do? He sends me a message last week saying, I listened to the Pos-cast with Arik Kabilio, who was the guy who did Aliyah, the guy who was totally on fire, right? Moved from Maryland. He said, I didn't know he was in Israel. Can you send me his phone number? I said, sure. By the way, when are you coming on the Pos-cast? Still too busy. But hey, that's a beautiful connection there between. So now, Ron Storch is going to meet Arik Kabilio because of the Pos-cast. There's one more great thing that has happened because of the Pos-cast. Okay, I just want to conclude here with a note on the calendar, and that is early this week on the 20th of Tevis was the Yartzeit of the Rambam, and Friday is the 24th day of Tevis, which is Yartzeit of the Alter Rebbe. And the Alter Rebbe and the Rambam were both. The Rebbe spoke about the similarity between them, both in their in the compilations of the Shulchan Aruch, compilation of the Mishnah Torah, and the fact that the Rambam also is known to study the esoteric part of the Torah. And here we are. We are here as Lubavitchers, as descendants, spiritual descendants, physical descendants. Actually, I'm going to share with you a quick story. A quick story about my grandfather. I hope I get this right. But basically, the story is that 1 second, I'm going to find it here. Just wait 1 second. I know this is terrible to be doing this online. My grandfather's relationship with the Rebbe, I think it was the previous Rebbe, in fact. I think it was. Here goes. This is for my sister, who's our number one fan. I remember Zayda being one of the Rebbe said to the Rebbe, paraphrasing, "You're worrying about them like they are your children." And the Rebbe answered, "Even more." And when my grandfather was in Israel, and my sister was in Israel as well in seminary, she visited him, and he told that story that the Rebbetzin had said, "You're worrying about these young Chassidim more than like your own children," and the Rebbe said, "Even more my own children." So that's the idea of when Chassidus starts, that a Rebbe is not just a teacher or a guide, but also like this real personal connection to the people. But ultimately, the care of the Rebbe is fantastic and great. But what he imparted to us is our ability to connect to Hashem through the Torah that they taught. From the Alter Rebbe to our Rebbe, it's one long continuum. And with the study of Torah and the study of Chassidus, we'll bring Mashiach to the world.
Amen. And with that, thank you so much for listening to episode 37 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner. We'll see you next week for an extremely special episode. And you'll have to stay with us until next week to figure out why.